To avoid military service, he sharpened a bullet with the wrong tool, loaded it into his rifle, then aimed it at his own palm. On the other hand, two older soldiers also wanted to escape military duty but didn't have the courage to harm themselves. So, they came up with an idea. They decided to shoot each other in the palm. One of the fearless veterans even grabbed the scorching hot barrel, burning his entire hand before he dared to let go. Seeing veterans doing this, a new recruit secretly imitated them on the battlefield. He would light a cigarette, hide it between his fingers, and slowly lift his hand above his head, exposing his hand to the enemy's bullets. His hand was soon shot by an enemy bullet. The sudden scream quickly drew the attention of nearby soldiers. The officer, without hesitation, decided to send the boy to a military tribunal for intentional self-harm, as all these self-inflicted injuries were attempts to escape the battlefield. This was because France had a special rule in combat. Any soldier injured in battle was allowed to return to the rear and avoid further fighting. However, these 5 men exploited this rule to attempt desertion, and unsurprisingly, they were all convicted as deserters in the military tribunal. The punishment handed down was brutal. Since they didn't want to fight, they would be thrown onto the front lines with orders to shoot them if they dared to retreat. When the first soldier was sent to the front, he raised a white flag, pleading with the enemy to spare him, crying out, "I'm not French. I'm not French." But the enemy despised this act of treason and, as he finished his lie, they shot him on the spot. The second soldier to be sent was a welder by trade. Forced onto the battlefield, he cursed his country before the enemy ended his life with a single shot. The third to be deployed was a young recruit. He was carving his name into a dead tree when he looked up and saw a German plane flying overhead, bracing himself for the fate of the soldiers. The fourth deserter, the bravest of them all, pulled out a grenade to try and destroy the German plane, miraculously hitting its wheel. But the next moment, he was gunned down by the enemy, and the fifth deserter was sent out, though being the last didn't guarantee his survival. The treatment for deserters on the battlefield was to send them to the front lines as cannon fodder. These 5 were ordinary civilians forcibly enlisted into the army, each hiding an untold story within. It turns out the first cowardly soldier was a petty criminal. He had joined the army to earn money, but soon realized there was nothing here except fighting and killing, with no money to be made. His mindset changed quickly, and he began stealing his comrades' helmets to make life harder for them. In society, his proudest moment was standing up for a woman he loved by slashing his boss with a small knife. The second soldier, who was killed, had been a welder before the war. He understood the true nature of war. The wealthy profited from arms deals while the poor were left to kill each other. He wanted everyone to understand this truth, but his poor speaking skills meant no one paid him any attention. When he faced an enemy soldier, a young one, he hesitated, unable to strike. But his comrade, without a word, stabbed the young soldier to death, leaving the welder helplessly watching. This pushed him to try deserting the battlefield, unable to accept the brutality around him. The third was a young boy, just 5 months away from turning 20. Before enlisting, he was a lifeguard at the Brave Tower and had a beautiful, charming wife. However, after entering the war, he was terrified by what he saw. The fourth soldier, the one who tried to blow up the plane, was originally a carpenter with a wife of his own. He held a deep grudge. He had once shot at a rat disturbing his sleep, accidentally injuring his own hand. However, the military tribunal saw this as self-harm, mistakenly sentencing him as a deserter. The fifth soldier, the last to go, had the worst luck of all. Before he even advanced much, he was struck by enemy shellfire. He was just an ordinary farmer, forced into service while on his way to work, but among them, he turned out to be the bravest. Infuriated by the enemy's treatment of his fallen compatriots, he held an enemy's head under the mud, suffocating him in anger. However, he missed his wife and children deeply, leading him to consider deserting the army. In the end, all 5 men suffered various degrees of attacks on the battlefield, yet one managed to survive by sheer luck. The farmer, Old Wang, didn't die when the shell exploded. Spotting a nearby cellar that had been blown open, he quickly hid inside. As he waited inside the cellar, he heard the sounds of battle outside. Curiosity drove him to lift a wooden plank and peek at what was happening. Suddenly, he heard voices. It was his fellow soldiers searching for survivors. But before they found him, they were struck down by an enemy shell. Seeing the shell heading his way, he hurried back into the cellar just in time, avoiding certain death. After covering the fallen soldier's eyes, he quickly took the rations from the soldier's pocket, unwrapped it, and devoured it in a frenzy. Having eaten, he continued hiding in the cellar, waiting for the right moment to escape. At that moment, a few soldiers came by to check the area. They scanned the place but didn't notice Old Wang hiding. After they left, he took one of the soldiers' dog tags and swapped it with his own, preparing his escape. He also took a dead soldier's bandage and wrapped it around his hand, disguising himself further. He then found a deceased soldier, swapped their dog tags, and carried the boy to the field hospital. Just as Old Wang was waiting for medical attention, the Germans launched another bombardment, throwing the area into chaos. One of the bombs struck near a fixed flywheel, causing the hydrogen blimp above to start ascending. To everyone's horror, another bomb was lodged on the rooftop above. Although Old Wang managed to pull a lever and secure the wheel, the rope began to snap. Seeing the hydrogen blimp about to collide with the bomb, everyone scrambled for cover, while Old Wang hid in the laundry room, covering himself with piles of clothes. Meanwhile, doctors and soldiers tried to escape, but a large metal wheel blocked their path. Soon, the blimp collided with the bomb. The explosion set the entire hospital ablaze. The boy whom Old Wang had saved should have perished, but he miraculously survived, beginning his journey back home to reunite with his family. The boy saved by Old Wang didn't die, though he lost his memory in the explosion. Fortunately, an elderly woman took him in at the hospital, giving him a temporary place to stay, but her sudden death left him searching for his family once again. In the end, through relentless effort, the two were reunited. The girl looked at him with a bittersweet smile, and he smiled back. Perhaps this is what a lifelong bond looks like. This movie not only reveals the brutality of war but also the darkness and selfishness within human nature.